We'll continue the conversation now by bringing in the former Lieutenant Governor of New York, Betsy McCaughey. Betsy joins us via Skype tonight from Connecticut. We appreciate your time, and we should point out that we're joined here on the anchor desk by Dick Morris. Also with us, Steve Malzberg and Rick Unger, who check in from Newsmax, New York. Ladies first, Betsy, we heard some of Bernie Sanders' predictable rhetoric. Your thoughts on what was going on tonight, the Trump victory in the Republican primary, Bernie Sanders winning for the Democrats?
Well, let me start with Bernie. The most revealing exit poll was the question put to voters: if trustworthiness, honesty is the most important quality, whom do you support? 95% chose Bernie Sanders, 5% Hillary. That's at the point in the evening when the exit poll was discussed. Could be changed a little, but the fact is Hillary won. No voters who regarded trustworthiness or honesty as the most important issue. Now that may change a little, and let me explain why. Bernie Sanders is now going to be in the spotlight, and the bloom is going to be off the rose. And when they start looking at his finances, they will discover that he is just as much a creature of the unions, particularly the large public sector unions, as she is of the Wall Street banking establishment. And so he will come under scrutiny now. He's campaigned very widely as the defender of the vets. In fact, he betrayed the vets in order to protect the public sector unions when he was chairman of the Senate Veterans Affairs Committee. So as he gains the lead, he's going to come under a lot of scrutiny, and those exit polls will change a little when you get to South Carolina, for example, or the other states.
Let me turn to the Republican side, Betsy, and I joked earlier about Bernie Sanders doing his Donald Trump impersonation about a huge victory. Yeah, and huge for Donald Trump. Tell us, put it in perspective tonight, what this means to Trump, not only tonight, but possibly for the rest of the campaign, Betsy.
Well, it's going to force the GOP to deal with him as a legitimate candidate, which he is. And as you know from the numbers, there are 4 other candidates kind of bunched together in the number 2 spot. As long as that continues, at least those 4 candidates will go on. So as long as there are at least 4 other candidates vying with him, he will remain the very big leader. It's going to be more challenging when 1 or 2 of those candidates drop out, because it will be harder for him to hold on to a lead with only 30%, 35%. But right now, this is a huge win for him. It sets him up to run the table until the other candidates drop out. And he deserves it. Americans are angry, and he is expressing their frustration. They want somebody who's not part of the political establishment. Go Donald.
And we are awaiting Donald Trump's victory speech. Let's go back to our friends at Newsmax New York, and then we'll have you weigh in, Dick Morris. Let me go to Rick Unger, because, Rick, you have kind of been the canary in the coal mine for the Democrats. You weren't all that enthusiastic about Hillary. You raised the specter of the emails being a real problem. What will the Democrats do? Will they galvanize behind Hillary despite the exit poll that Betsy mentioned and the real problems with honesty?
Well, yeah, if she's the candidate, of course they will. There's a long way to go here, certainly on the Democratic side. We have to see what happens as we move forward. This is not a nomination that was ever going to be decided in February. It will be decided in March. Now, if Bernie Sanders were to somehow get that nomination, I think Democrats would tell you that that's a bigger problem in terms of electability in the general election. In terms of the problems that Hillary Clinton brings, there's no denying she brings these issues, and Betsy's right. I saw the same exit polls. This is a real problem. We'll see how well the Clinton campaign can deal with them.
Steve Malzberg, Bernie invoking Trump's huge. It's huge tonight for the Donald. Is Donald going to be able to run the table in this Republican primary fight from here on out?
Well, let me just give you a couple more exit polls from Bernie, because I think this is really interesting. 18 to 29-year-olds, 83 to 16, Bernie. Independents, 72 to 27, Bernie. And get this one, all women. Younger women was even more lopsided, but all women in New Hampshire, Bernie, 55 to 44. There's a lot of women going to hell tonight in New Hampshire. Now,
Steve Malzberg, of course, you're evoking Madeleine Albright's statement the other day in a rally for Hillary Clinton. Let me turn to Dick Morris here on the anchor desk with me. It was said by others, and this vote total for Bernie in terms of winning women, that's a big deal because Hillary did try to predicate her campaign on this to a very great degree.
And one of the problems is that she lost women when the focus became on Bill Clinton's escapades as president. And that happened over the Christmas week. And between December and January, she fell off the cliff with women, losing 14 points in the national matchups with the Republican candidates. Not losing any among men, but losing it among women. But let's talk about Trump for a minute. Now the key question becomes, will Donald spend his own money? Until now, he has famously not. Partially, I guess, because he wants to keep it, partially because he wanted to demonstrate that he wasn't just buying the election, but he was winning it by the skill of his rhetoric and his ability as a candidate, which he certainly, God knows, has demonstrated. But now he's going to enter Super Tuesday on March 1st. And it's a question then of spending $10 or $20 million. And because he's Donald Trump, he can't raise it. They can raise some in direct mail, but people are not going to write large checks to a guy who's much richer than they are. And the problem is that if he's not going to put that money into it, it's hard to see how he keeps that lead, particularly in the face of a field that's either pared down by dropouts or by thresholds in the election law. On the other hand, if he is going to spend it, and he literally will write a check for $50 million, he will probably be the Republican nominee and probably will be the next president.
Self-financing of that campaign. Back to Betsy McCaughey, since we were talking about the vote total on the Democratic side, Betsy, women going for Bernie. Your reaction to that, and also to the Trump situation in terms of financing his campaign through the rest of the Republican primary season.
Well, I totally understand why women went for Bernie. I was personally very offended when Madeleine Albright suggested that I would choose my nominee based on her body parts. And most intelligent women these days would agree with that. That kind of thinking belongs in the era of Gloria Steinem and Betty Friedan, people who are really over the hill now. We women just don't think that way anymore. Thank you very much.
Yeah, but there was one other thing, Betsy, I could recall in another visit we had on Newsmax Prime, you talked about how, quote, interesting Bernie is, and you wouldn't mind sitting down for dinner with him. Now, I'm paraphrasing a little bit.
Dinner, but she might not go further.
Well, yeah, but what about that? Is Bernie a chick magnet?
Right. I think that Bernie is avuncular, charming, and almost anybody would want to sit down and have a good chat with him. I find his ideology frightening, dangerous, and obviously contrary to the best interests of this nation. But a nice chat over a cup of coffee or a glass of wine, why not?
Well, you know, it's interesting. Rick Unger, when we were on the the House Financial Affairs Committee, the Banking Committee, Bernie would get up and talk about the Federal Reserve, and a great conservative, the late, great Jack Metcalf of Washington State, he would lean over to me, Rick, he'd say, you know, Bernie makes some sense on this issue. There seems to be a real populist theme. Rick, with 45 seconds, the rise of populism, Bernie for the Democrats and socialists, and Trump for the Republicans and capitalists. Your take on it?
Wow, that's a very large question to try and answer in 45
But you
seconds.
can do it. I know you can.
You know, it remains to be seen. I personally find Trump's brand of populism to be very frightening. It's nationalism in a way that I didn't think was possible in this country. You see it in other countries. At the same token, I got to say Bernie's brand, which is certainly leaning towards socialism, is also something I didn't think I'd see in this country. So, yeah, okay. So
I tell you what, you ponder it.
I
I was unfair to give you that tough question. We'll give you more time later.